The ACLU, from the beginning, has always defended the rights of all persons against abuses by the United States government. I said this way at the beginning. And so it's not limited geographically, it is limited by who the government officials are. So even if an American citizen in this country were abused by a Mexican government official, I mean, we would maybe go after the U.S. government for not sufficiently protecting against the Mexican official. But it doesn't matter what the person's citizenship is or where they are located. Our government is always accountable to constitutional standards and other legal standards, including under international law, regardless of where or whom it is using its power, or where or against whom. And so, you know, one of the first issues that the ACLU dealt with right at the very beginning of its existence was rights of immigrants. I mean, there were the Palmer raids and people who were treated as having no rights, among other reasons, because they were non-citizens. And, you know, here we have a very strong constitutional leg to stand on. If you look at provisions in the Constitution, some of them do apply to citizens, but the most fundamental rights are explicitly granted to persons. And so when you know that, you know, the framers in two different clauses of the very same amendment, one of them talks about citizens and the other one talks about persons, they were deliberately saying, it doesn't matter what your citizenship status is. You still are entitled to fundamental due process rights, to fundamental equal protection rights. They may not be exactly the same process that's due to a citizen, but they certainly are there. And I don't know a single Supreme Court justice who has disagreed with that position. You know, you can fight about the details of exactly what the rights are that are due, so that's something that we've always taken a position on. Where there's more debate now, and it's an issue that is before the Supreme Court in the last case arising out of Guantanamo that it heard arguments on in December, and that is when the United States government acts against anybody outside of our territorial jurisdiction, and it becomes more pointed if you're talking about a non-citizen. And the ACLU actually filed a brief in that case in which we argued specifically that the Constitution is not limited geographically, and in particular the great right of habeas corpus that allows somebody to go before a judge to challenge the fact that he or she is being detained by the government is something that should pertain regardless of geography and regardless of citizenship. The lower court had reached the opposite holding, and the brief is very persuasive. If you look at all the precedents, you know, where something occurs and who the victim is a factor, but it's not conclusive.